Okay, let's call to order the village board work session for July 7th at 5:01 PM. Kelly, please note roll. I have no announcements other than tonight is trustee Wayne Brown's first meeting. Please welcome him. We'll see how that goes. Stop. First up on the agenda, update and discussion regarding the Interstate 3990-94 corridor project. Bill Chang.
All right, I will introduce this subject, but then look also to Judd and Alex for support if you have any questions following some of the discussion. In summary, as you know, the Wisconsin Department of Transportation has been studying the corridor, the interstate corridor from approximately Interstate 30 all the way up to the Boston area. In anticipation that improvements and reconstruction will be conducted over the next several years. And when I say several years, it's 2035 to 2045, give or take. So as part of that process, they are at the beginning of design, currently working with a third-party engineering company also to conduct the due diligence. As you know, we have four structures. When I say structures, bridges and or interchange that potentially impacts a boundary close to the forest or in the forest itself. For this evening's discussion, I wanted to concentrate your thinking to the River Road Bridge, as it's our understanding that that's going to be likely will be one of the earlier projects as a replacement of that bridge. And as we discussed that, two questions about that improvement, one being multi-use path or sidewalk across that bridge. If you look at our comprehensive plan does indicate that the village desires a multi-use path across that bridge to get from DeForest to the southern part of DeForest, primarily behind Fleet Farm, as all of that is currently within the village of DeForest. Then second is the aesthetics for the bridge. I have the aesthetics policy pulled up here, but primarily I think we're thinking or talking about a medallion of some type indicating the community. And so at this location, the bridge is, I believe, split between two communities, ourselves and the Village of Windsor. And so Judd and Alex have been in contact or discussion with the Village of Windsor to explore their interest in participation of costs for aesthetics on this bridge, and then potentially their approval and involvement in securing right away for the path that will eventually cross the bridge. Aesthetics itself is at full cost of the village, so that's not contributed. The cost coverage for that is not contributed by DOT. In regards to the path, we did clarify that DOT would pay for a portion of it. They have a specific width that they're allotted, and then any additional width beyond that, which seems to be in our estimation about 2 feet of width, would be cost to the local community, which would likely be us. They're estimating at a very high level, anywhere in that $100,000 to $200,000 range. So the purpose of this discussion, and we'll break here and talk about the aesthetics here and the path here first before jumping to the other interchange at 51 to talk about the park and ride. But the purpose of the discussion this evening is to get some direction from you as these are items that DOT needs to need to confirm prior to moving forward in their design. I'll stop there, Judd or Alex, if you have anything else to add.
I'll just chime in for the bridge component. When Bill talks about aesthetics, there's a couple phases to it, right? So it could be, you just picture as you go down the interstate in any town USA, you go underneath the bridge, it's usually round pylons, pillars holding them up, nothing super elaborate to it, right? You can do as much things like some stamped concrete to make it, if you think of our bridges in town, when you go down South Street, Main Street, if you look underneath the bridges, they're kind of stamped, or when you go underneath on 51, they've got that stamping and it looks like stacked stone. We could pay to have that done additionally, as well as putting in signs, images of some sort. Now, it can't be our specific community logo. So on River Road, we would maybe do our generic logo that we have between DeForest and Windsor to indicate that. I've seen a lot of these over by Milwaukee Way where they've got logos, images on those bridges. Madison has some down. I guess I see it on 51 and Milwaukee Street. There's the medallions that they have. But with DOT projects, they want very general images. So we did meet with Windsor. They were generally supportive of being a partner on that. I don't know what that cost would be. So we have to say to the DOT, hey, we're interested in this, and they can give us prices back. And then we'd have to formalize some sort of agreement with Windsor and how that cost sharing mechanism goes for the bridge portion. From the trail side component of this, Bill's right. They've got, I think it's 5 feet of width on each side. So they add that together, and there's maybe another 2 feet that we have to cover. But there is, it will have the trail connect at River Road. And so that farm that is there, we need to work with him to acquire land. Windsor's indicated they would give us the authorization to build the trail within their community, but they want to have $0 given towards the effort, right? So it would be, that cost would be fully borne by the village of DeForest. So there would be a trail component that we would have from River Road to the DOT boundary. And then again, on the other side of the interstate, the western side, from the trail boundary to wherever we might end the trail at that point. We could do it on the north side, but that doesn't make a lot of sense because then the trail has to cross back across River Road to get down to Fleet Farm. What's the name of the development there we were just at today? The Springs. That would be where all of our future development is and where we would have a trail connection. I think that's part of our comprehensive plan. So, Alex, you have more to add? So that, and again, that, according to Windsor, they've had a conversation with that farm owner. He's supportive of a trail connection potentially there. So, but I don't know. We'll have to, when you're dealing with DOT dollars, even though there wouldn't be any dollars from the DOT in this, we still have to follow their procedures, which is real estate acquisition, and doing appraisals and all that kind of stuff. So, we'll have to embark on that if that's the case, if with the board, if you support putting in that trail connection at this time. But they will be raising that bridge, so hopefully it's not hit for the 700th time or however many times it's been hit, 2 or 3. But so.
Jim.
I'll just maybe start off by saying, reading the memo, I was a bit surprised with I guess the way it was written, because I feel that's a change when they talked about the stamping being borne of our cost and not a DOT cost. So I sort of questioned that, why the change, because I thought that was policy that's been in place for quite some time, and I'm not cognizant of when that changed. And I know I was part of the conversation when we did the stamping on like the 51 bridges, like you said, that looks like the stacked stone. And that was not our cost. That was part of the funding, what they called the CSD funding, at least for bridges at the time. And I know the CSD funding is back for other aspects of the projects. So I'm personally for the aesthetics treatment. I don't know about the black railings on River Road Bridge just because I don't know how visible it is really to our community. It's more the interstate. But again, I'm for the stamping. I can elaborate more later if need be, but I do also question, like you mentioned, the trail. I also want that connection, but you brought up a good point that we have to follow DOT rules, and without that, property owner being amenable to the trail, that won't happen because I believe that's outside of state statutes to actually condemn it for a trail. So that will be a tentative thing. So. And I guess I also wanted to mention there's still the TAP grants that could be available for trails too. So I think there's other opportunities that even though I think Bill, I think you said 100 or 200,000, hopefully that will go down over time.
This is happening in 2028, I think. So it's happening rather quickly, so I don't know if those grants, if there's enough time for us to apply for them, but if they are, we'll certainly look to do that. So
So for clarification, the document that you see here, this aesthetics policy is what we received from DOT and the interstate corridor team that we are coordinating with. So I mean, there's opportunity for a CSD grant is what looks like, but they reiterated to us multiple times that any aesthetics is responsibility of the community. Any other comments? I mean, generally, are we headed in the right direction here with aesthetics and the path on the south side? Currently, right now, I think we're just thinking about medallions, not necessarily stamped concrete. We could go in that direction if the village board would like us to, but we're thinking keeping that to a minimum at this point.
Fred?
Yeah, I'm not too in favor as aesthetics. The stamped, I mean, looks nice depending on cost. Medallions, I wouldn't care either way whether we did that. I would like to keep it as simple as possible and cost effective. The trail, I think, would be really nice. Again, depending on what that ends up costing with acquisition of land and everything else. And that I would be in favor of putting the railings on, depending on what that looks like. Would that be part of the bridge reconstruction, or is that a separate? Okay, thanks.
Jim?
I can elaborate on what I'm more a favor for as far as the stamping. I feel like all of our River Road or Yahara River bridges where the Yahara River goes underneath, pretty much every one of them until you get to 19 has a stamping pattern on it, like a boulder look. So if it was up to me, I would like that same boulder look when you're crossing the interstate from the river. That I don't know if that's an option, but I will personally ask that of the DOT outside of this meeting, I'll say even. And the other thing, I don't know how much I really care about the River Road Bridge because I see that as more visible from the interstate. So it can look like the interstate corridor as far as I'm concerned. With medallions or not, I guess I don't know how much I care. I find it interesting that they don't want it to be community specific when the two examples I'm assuming you got from them is directly Beloit and Janesville. The thing that I would like to explore too is again on the 51 bridges, all those that I'd say were 51s going over our local roads. We have that stamped pattern and I would like that to continue, say like on 19 where it's more or less our traffic going underneath. But again, I don't know if that's going to be an option. But that's my opinion on as far as stamping goes.
Anybody else?
I'll just add, those are the 51 and 19 are where our traffic travels under it. I mean, technically they could travel under them all, but you go underneath the interstate there. The interstate goes over the top, or the interstate goes underneath River Road and V, right? But 19 and 51, the interstate travels over the top of those local roads. So those are different. You could mix and match technically.
I'll throw my 2 cents in. I think the path is definitely something we should pursue. I also don't much care about the medallions. And wherever our bridges are local, it would be nice if they were a little more attractive. Yeah, I guess the interstate doesn't matter because you're going too fast to notice anyway. Anybody else? Melanie?
I'll just comment, just to put my comment on the record. I guess I am somewhat echoing a couple of different viewpoints. I'm very much in favor of the bridge. I really don't have a strong feeling about the aesthetic component at all, but definitely in favor of the expansion.
Wayne?
The aesthetics really, I don't think are overly important to me either. Medallions are fine, but I think keeping it as cost effective as possible is kind of the way I look at it. I do have a question about the path though. How much of that runs through Windsor?
It all from River Road. So once across River Road, that would all be Windsor on the south side of Windsor Road. That would then get to DOT property line, which I mean, you can see the yellow line that runs parallel to the interstate. That's where DOT land is. So of that trail segment, it's 3/4 of it or more.
They have zero interest in pitching in on that.
Correct. Yep.
Seems a little odd.
Alicia?
That was going to be my question. So, do they ever say why? Because I feel like just from, if they're going to utilize so much of it, is it just a friendly, hey, you guys want to pay for this? And no?
They don't think that it benefits their residents to have that connection there. So they didn't want to contribute to it. So.
And when we're asking them, who are we asking specifically?
So we met with Jamie Rabarczyk, who's their economic development director, I guess, and then Davis Clark is their public services director. That's who we met with at that day. They had conversed with Tina and Bob. So Tina's their administrator and Bob is the village president. So it would be a board to board discussion, I would think, if you want to go beyond that. I can just tell you what they said. I'm not gonna.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
We don't want to put you in the middle, Jen.
Just to comment on that, I mean, the connection is connecting two parts of the forest. And so if you look at the overall map, once you get to the south side here, none of that is Windsor. If you look at kind of the sidewalk system here, the sidewalk is on the north side of Windsor Road, and I think we had this conversation with them too, about when we reconstructed Windsor Road, about which side of the road the path should be on as it crosses over when you head east. And so this is one of those areas where it is a municipal boundary road. It's got those challenges along with it. And so I think when you look at prioritization of the importance of this connection, I would make the argument that is a higher priority for the village of DeForest than it is for the village of Windsor.
Anybody else? Otherwise, I guess you can go on to the next portion of that. Yeah.
Real quick question. I think you mentioned 2028. Is that the construction year?
Yes, I think that's my understanding, unless it gets pushed back to 29, but I think it was 28 was when they're gonna be doing this.
Okay. Just seems pretty fast, so I'm wondering what they are, the design, if there's a 60% design already.
They've been working on the design for a while, and I think the components they need to know are, do we want a trail over it? And then what do we want for aesthetics added to it? That's what they're kind of waiting on to get things moving into their direction. This is one of the add-ons that we have. We meet with them every other week, I guess, on interstate corridor topics, so.
You know, over the whole plan, if they're taken into account our comprehensive plan showing River Road continuing on the west side?
Yes, yeah, we have communicated, that, or communicate our comprehensive plan and our intentions along River Road here.
You want to go on to the next part, Bill?
Yep, I can go on.
Do you have enough on that part, or?
Yeah, I think we have some clarification here. I mean, I think the priority is on the path, and getting the path across and connection. Less of a priority on the aesthetics, and being cost effective as possible. So this next item here is in regards to, whether or not the village desires to have a park and ride lot, within the vicinity of the Highway 51, US 51 and interstate interchange. Not very specific as to the exact location. The request from DOT is that if the village is interested in one, it would be included in the corridor project, as far as property acquisition and construction of that lot. However, they are asking that the municipality be the sponsor or take over maintenance responsibilities of that park and ride thereafter. So including snow plowing, painting or restriping, correct, garbage collection, and then eventually, is the repaving of the lot in 20 years after 25 years after the construction of it. Now the interchange, this interchange area is slotted much later than the River Road project. It's my understanding that as far as timeline goes, it's the River Road, and then they're gonna move up to the Dells area, go north, and then come back down south. So, but they would like to know now so that they could put it into their project scope and start to identify real estate acquisition.
Opinions, anyone? Alicia?
I have a quick question because I think about the park and ride over by by Arby's where you can catch the bus for the airport, and just like if something of that matter, would we put security cameras in a park and ride? And I just asked because like overnight cars or I guess you chuckle, but I just think, is that just a place for crime?
A lot of times you don't see cameras at these
Okay.
facilities because we'll need to put, electric meter there, and then you'll charge for that. Internet connections,
Got it.
utility box for the camera system.
Yeah.
It'll start getting costly too.
No, I'm just asking because I'm just thinking like, if your car gets broken into, who's liable? Are they going to come ask the village? Just stuff like that.
So I don't think I saw I don't know if you saw anything about security cameras in the agreement. It looks like in our conversation, at least with them, and we had some questions about that insurance clause and liability also, that their ability to change that standard agreement is very narrow, I would say. And so that is definitely something that, as we think about this, opportunity, that we consider potential, liability related to it.
All right, go ahead.
And you said the full cost would be by the state?
Construction.
The initial, property acquisition and construction of it would be a part of the
And then
project.
thereafter, the village.
Melanie?
Yeah, just, I had a question on the liability clause, and since that came up, my two questions. One is that maintenance agreement that we saw in the packet negotiable, or is that just like, that's provided as an example, but we have some ability to negotiate that with DOT?
The answer is everything's negotiable, but when you're negotiating with the state, not very much is negotiable. The answer we got is that what they gave us was a template that is generally how these things go, but they did indicate that some of the items that we were concerned about, they could run them up the flagpole and see if they can get approval on some different language. So there is some room to work on that stuff.
Okay, and then my second question related to that section, just the whole number 9 liability in that agreement. In my reading of it, it was not clear to me what rights we actually have to file claims for damages if there is damage or injury, like property loss or injury. It just, that if you could just explain that in plain language, what that says.
Yeah, what that is it's basically an indemnification provision that says if anything happens where there's liability and somebody sues the DOT, we pick up that liability. That's one of those provisions I always push back on. I don't think the village is an insurance company. I don't think it should be an insurance company. My view is if we're responsible for something, we take the liability. If they're responsible for something, they take the liability. Honestly, there's not much room for liability here in operating a park and ride. You're basically putting out a piece of land that people are going to put their cars on voluntarily, leave them there as long as they want to. And, the village has, and the state both have a pretty good amount of immunity in terms of discretionary decisions. So if somebody trips in a pothole in the park and ride, you're probably going to be immune from liability because you made the decision how much repair to do and when to make those repairs. So I don't consider liability to be a big issue. I just have a sort of a conceptual problem with us picking up liability for what somebody else does.
Thank you.
A couple things. So park and rides that I've been involved with have been historically a good place for drug use. So I would think we're gonna incur some costs for, police presence, that kind of thing. But I guess my other question is, do we know what it might cost to maintain a park and ride over the course of a year? Or, I mean,
Who's got the park and ride out on V by the Pink Elephant? Does that belong to the state?
Vienna
Yeah?
has control of it. So they mow it, they take care of the garbage that's there. So I mean, the cost to mow it is the greater cost, assuming if we get snow as we usually get, maybe twice a year, a big dump, right? We'd have to follow the park and ride, or maybe brine it, salt it if it's going to be potentially icy. So it's another thing that we just have to maintain, right? So I understand the benefits of them. If you ask me, I don't want to maintain. We don't need to take on that extra, but if you want it, it's something we just have to do and we factor in. So to give you a dollar amount, I'd have to,
No, and I don't mean to put you on the spot at all. It seems like an extra cost that I don't know if we need, but
I'm not
Brad?
particularly in favor of it, so I would say no.
I'm not crazy about it. Jim?
I'm one that's in favor of it. I can tell you I was the designer of the pink elephant one, so I think there's a benefit as far as having a location where people can do the park and ride, and I know it's not set up. It wasn't originally set up for it, but like that park and ride, I know there's like Greyhound buses and stuff that come there, so there is a benefit to our residents too. The cautious thing that I have is determining the size of it. I wouldn't want to go, the Dutch Mill is the one you were talking about. That one to me is way bigger than I would ever want to see. I would be more in favor of one that's the size of the pink elephant, one that's relatively minimal, but does allow for, say, buses or whatever people to meet.
Alicia?
I think my first inclination when I first saw Park and Ride was just like negative, but after kind of just talking more and doing a deep dive of like the long-term potential of also as our village grows and that need, I'm more favorable. I'm just not, I just, with all the liability and security concerns in the back of my mind, I think really what was just addressed is maybe not having a large park and ride, but still filling that need, I'd be favorable for.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I don't think that there is a particular recommendation from staff on this one at this point. You know, when asked some questions about the parking ride with DOT and liability and costs, et cetera. DOT is simply offering this as an opportunity as part of the overall project. You know, if you were to ask me, and I did ask this question, whether there's and studies of the need for a park and ride in the area. You know, I don't believe that they have a specific study that shows a need for it. And so this is more, do they? Well, that's the answer that I received. So again, it's not something that they're saying that is needed here. More asking the question if the village wants it.
Can I say something? What? Can I say?
No. Go ahead.
Just following procedures here. So I guess when I first read it, I thought it sounded like something advantageous to the community. My main outside of the liability question that I had, and I guess I feel satisfied with your answer on that, Al. My other main consideration is really if the utilization that we anticipate justifies the maintenance costs and the burden of the maintenance of it. My sense is if we build it, they will come and that it will be utilized. But I don't know if you have anything else on that, Jim, if you were going to say something on like a study or something, but I am just curious if there's any, I didn't realize it was Vienna's, but I'm curious if there's any idea of how well that might be utilized. I feel like the one on V is pretty well utilized, but just that's kind of what I'm thinking about.
I guess I'm going from memory. There's a bike, well, or Thinker Tighter's bike and head coordinator, Michelle, but she shared a study with me many years ago, and I thought for sure there was a circle on that interchange, but I could be wrong. But what I would say is that when they originally built that, what I call the Pink and Ride or Pink Elephant Park and Ride, whatever, it's maybe Norway Grove, I think is the technical term. But that was very, I'll say, unutilized at the time. And what I've been hearing is that it's pretty full now. So they're talking about expanding that one. And the other thing that I will mention is There's a salt shed that was built that again, was part of that design. In that salt shed, there was additional lands to the north that is being kept in DOT property with the anticipation that it could be a park and ride. So I think if we stepped away from that, that land may go up for sale or become excess lands. But that was conversations I had during the design of the salt shed.
I want to say the salt shed, though, I don't think they were planning to use that land because I think they might need to expand the salt operations there. So it would be and the Welton Enterprises still owns a parcel there that they would be looking at for a potential park and ride location. But where the salt shed is, I distinctly remember them saying that they are going to need additional operational storage there at some point. So
Yeah,
That was not a conversation I was part of.
I think the one in the middle of the interstate is going away down by 30.
Yep.
The Badger interchange, so they're going to need to have additional place to keep salt here for the interstate. So I think they're going to be expanding that one.
Okay, that makes sense. That came after I was gone from that project.
Bill, do you have what you need?
I think it sounds like we're not interested at this point unless more information comes out about, ability to change some language in the agreement and potential need for, a park and ride at this location.
That's my impression. Is that correct? I guess so. And that should be it for the interstate project, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, presentation of the initial 2027 department budget updates regarding the general government budget. Whole bunch of people, you want to lead off, Bill?
Yeah, so this is gonna be a combination of, all the, staff that's involved in putting together the budget for, general government. And so oops. Yep. So, general government, makes up mostly of the administrative team. Sections within the budget includes, the village board, municipal court, administration, communications, human resources, village clerk's office, and the finance department. And you'll see here, this has been updated recently to include the new staff additions, highlighting the administration portion of the organization. So again, just highlighting the respective sections within the general government. I do want to note that there are special line items that highlight legal assessments and parameters resolved through administration that are part of a general government budget. Insurance, for example, is one of those. So for the village board, I just want to note that first and foremost, this category also includes appointed members. Historically, we have accounted, for example, planning and zoning member stipends and training into this. It is our intention to kind of break that out so we have an understanding of where some of our resources are going. And the reason also is that over the last year, I think we've had more requests for email specific to individuals on particularly committees, and so that members of the public can reach out to them and directly. There is a cost for that, and so that's something that we'll need to consider as part of this overall budget section. So you can see the major increase in what we're proposing here, and it, again, it's subject to you, is that we've added funding for additional village board member training. I've spoken to some of you, and some of you have expressed interest in attending more of the league conferences and or events. And I think some of the challenge there is the cost of travel or lodging. And so what we factor into this is the ability to send four occurrences, trustees to the conferences. So the League of Wisconsin Municipality holds 2 conferences per year. So that means sending 2 trustees per conference. This budget line item would include registration fee, travel, and then lodging as part of that. We pretty much kept everything else the same at this point. I know that we talked previously about a strengths finder or a self-assessment for the village board as part of your onboarding process. We factor that into the contracted services. That's a line item that we keep in there for addressing strategic objectives for the village board or led by the village board. A few of the questions that, or one question that I'd like to ask the board, I know that I've spoken to some of you and some of you have expressed interest in the level of stipend that you receive as a board member and as a committee or commission member. Want to see what the kind of the flavor of the board is, and that, you know, if that's something that this board desires to add to the budget, then the staff can go and would go and conduct a study of what is comparable in other communities, and how that is structured. Now, statute, I believe, states that if you do add it to the budget, it's not effective immediately. It's effective to the board following. So I love to get some direction on that. I'll pause.
Jim?
I'd say my first concern with the stipend is I look at the planning and zoning commissioners and I believe they get $50 a meeting, and some of the meetings that we've had in recent history, I think that's almost laughable. It's probably $5 an hour or less. So I personally, my highest priority is to get the planning and zoning up. I would suggest like $100 that I think is fair. I myself personally, and I feel like I can say this because I'm on limited time more than likely, but I feel the stipend here isn't worth the time. I do the little bit I looked at other communities, I feel like we're more or less in line, but again, I don't know how we want to look at that as far as if we need to be in line. So that I'll say is my take, I guess.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you said current P and Z payment is.
I suggested $100 because I think it's only 50 right now.
50, okay. Want to say something?
Sure. My general take on the stipends is that I view this as a voluntary position. I think, I mean, we're all local, so we're not incurring, you know, we're not like burning gas to get here. We're not paying for meals. This is a volunteer of our time to be here, and I don't think if we were to modestly increase the stipend, I don't think that would attract more people to the role. And I also don't think that a monetary incentive should be an incentive for a public volunteer role. So I'm fine with keeping our stipend where it's at. And I tend to have the same view for our committees and commissions as well.
Okay, we'll just keep going down the road here, and I'll say that I certainly don't do it for the monetary amount that you get. I don't think anyone would. It can get very time consuming, yes, but I think we have bigger priorities. Anybody else?
I concur. The only thing, which was just addressed is if we have a hard time filling our committees, is there other things we can do to incentivize people to serve the community? And so if we don't feel like monetary is the way, is there something else we can look into? But overall, I didn't even know there was a stipend when I first ran, so that was pretty cool. And certainly thinking back to answering tons and tons of emails during the no data center thing, it definitely, depending on what's above in front of this board, can be very time consuming. But I think that's just, that's part of the deal.
Brad?
I'd be interested in seeing what other communities are doing, just because I also didn't know there was a stipend until Kelly asked me to give her the information. But there's a lot of time. There's a lot of unexpected time I wasn't prepared for. But I'd also be unwilling, I think, to give myself a raise as well to do this work. So that I'm not sure how much it matters. I do think Jim's got a point that single commission does a ton of work, a lot of extra time, and I would be willing to look at upping that committee and what they give specifically for them. Knowing everything comes through them that comes to this board, right?
Wayne?
I've been here for 48 minutes. So I don't know that I need an extra stipend. I may feel differently in a year, but I didn't know there was anything either, so.
Yeah, and so what I'm hearing is maybe more information. So that I don't need an answer now. We can take a look and concentrate our efforts on maybe the planning and zoning commission and see what those folks are in other communities are being compensated. And then bring that information back to the board. And as we continue to talk about budget, and we have these discussions, we can always amend what we're proposing.
Do we have someone else up next?
Let's see here. So this is just another listing of the organization, and then we're gonna have Randy talk on human resources.
All right, so as you know, we have wonderful staff that work for the Village of DeForest, and to do that, you have an HR group set up. The Village of DeForest has just over 250 employees in our payroll, ranging from board and committee members to poll workers, seasonal employees, athletic complex workers, park and rec summer programming staff. There are approximately 90 year-round staff. 20 of those are part-time year-round staff and 70 or ish full-time employees year-round. In the past 12 months, we've had 2 year-round employees leave the village. One of them was for personal reasons, and the other one was a retirement after 26 years of service, creating an employee retention rate of 97.8%. And realistically, you don't generally count a retirement as a turnover, so that rate is almost 100%. The benefits of creating the best employee experience is truly immeasurable. So retaining staff, as you can kind of see from what the village has already done, is very important. Keeping them, they know what they're doing, they do it well. Having a financial impact of keeping your staff is great. Replacing staff takes time, money, advertising expenses, recruiting, training, the whole gamut of things. Residents appreciate knowing and recognizing who they're calling and talking to, who they see when they walk in the front door, seeing different staff out doing park and rec things, plowing, mowing. They just appreciate that. Happy employees tend to go the extra mile and are more productive. Within how do I get to the next one, Bill? Just click. Okay. Within the village, we have a culture club, which is a small group of employees from each of the departments, Public Works, the police department, library, community center, and village hall, who create and plan events, trainings, and opportunities, which we invite and welcome all year-round village employees to come together to build relationships and engage with others that they may not normally do so. We provide opportunities to learn and grow at these events. We do annual milestone recognitions for years of service anniversaries. We offer community volunteer opportunities at the community center, hand out lunches for the summer Norski Nibbles program. We do food drives for Blessings in a Backpack and Mission Nutrition Food Fight, Red Cross blood drive opportunities, and others. We recently began offering Lunch and Learns, which are a series providing professional development during lunch breaks on a variety of topics: accountability, wellness, stress management, and most recently, how the Village of DeForest water system and towers work and function. Very informative and great to see what other departments do and how the departments link and work together. So it's just been a really great opportunity. Got lots going on. You have a great group of people that work for the Village of DeForest.
Any questions in regards to what we're doing internally on the human resource side? So I believe next we have communications. Stacy?
All right, so while communications has been around in the village for quite some time, we actually officially became a department. So it's myself, and then I have a communications coordinator, Deepti, who joined our team earlier this year. So there's full-time with one, she's part-time. So the communications department supports all departments from public services, utilities, park and rec, community development, administration, and we also do some work for the police department. Our goal is to ensure residents have consistent village messaging, branded messaging through a variety of media. So here you can just see some of the different forms of media that we do. So it's digital, print, you name it, we do it. So next, can you click the next slide? All right, so then this is just some of the highlights over the last year for our department. So the website continues to be our main source of resource to our residents. Something that I found quite interesting over the last 6 months, we've had over almost 600 searches just alone on our yard waste site. So either that tells me I need to do more public information on that, or they're very interested in the new services that we're providing with that yard waste site, or potentially it's from all the spring storm cleanup that folks are heading there to find out information. So that's on the radar, but definitely our website is something that we keep maintaining. Next year, there's an ADA compliance for the website that we have to make sure it's by April. So all PDFs, everything has to be screen reader ready. So there'll be a big undertaking coming next year. Also, we added a default chat button on the corner, that little icon that pops up where you can type in a question. We've had over 1,500 interactions with that chat itself. I think we have like a 70% success rate on the resident then getting the answer that they want. So again, that's saving our staff time with residents having that accessible to them to use at their time, say it's after hours. Then we have social media. We manage 3 social media pages just in Facebook alone. We do have Instagram, LinkedIn as well, but our main pages are the regular village page, Park and Rec, and then the Farmers Market. We have over 17,000 followers on those 3 combined. So with that, we are writing content, creating content, graphics, photography, videos, all the content that you see, we create. And that is everything, again, from like emergency road closures, project updates, community events, emergency information, and then of course, we like to highlight our community and staff. So all the content there. Then we'll move over to Engage DeForest, which is our public engagement tool and platform that we use. Next year, we will be up for a renewal for that contract. So they did warn me that there will be a slight increase in that. Again, has really been growing over the years since we've brought that on board. Development in DeForest has had over 20,000 unique visitors since we brought that live. Again, that's our page that shows all of the developments happening in the community and gives kind of a breakdown of what's going where. And again, contract renewal next year. And then last is our Notify Me. This is a branch off of our website where residents can sign up for email and text alerts. So that gives them the unique opportunity to sign up for park and rec, farmers markets, emergency road closures, street projects, different things like that. So again, that's crafting those unique messages when time has come to send out an email and text alerts. For that alone, we have just over 6,200 subscribers. And then, like I said, looking ahead to 2027, we have the ADA compliance for our website with the deadline in April. So that's going to be a big undertaking to make sure we're up to speed on all of that. And then expanding engagement opportunities and just continuing to tell our story within our brand.
So currently, the line items for communications and HR programs are being maintained at the current level. So, we'll see what additional information may come as we go through the budgeting cycle. But as far as numbers and comparisons to the 2026 budget, we're maintaining the current budget level. So next, I think this is where some of the major expenses will come in. Stacy's already just talked about the ADA compliance. We are also taking a look at a potential AI personal assistant. I think I've discussed this before with you. And the idea is to be able to centralize, historical knowledge of that historical public knowledge of the organization, things like minutes, past packets, etc. And would help us save time on research and going through hard files to look up information and then preparing some of these reports and analysis. We'll talk more about that as the year goes on, and then we'll bring more specific information. You also know that we're working on an IT consortium. We don't believe that there's going to be any significant costs associated with it in 2027, except for the cost of legal to set that up and to continue to negotiate the contract. Finance department is looking at Cassell enhancement features. Cassell is our accounting software program. Stacy's talked about Social Pinpoint. And then right now I'll turn it over to Judd to talk about the switch upgrade, look at upgrade to our servers, and then the telephone system replacement.
So we have switches that we use throughout the village. It's part of our important component of IT, right? So you've got our servers, which is the next place that we have. So servers are what are our backbone, which run programs where we store and secure all of our publicly available documents, working projects we have out there, all of our plan sets, all those kinds of things are there. So we're running critically low. Our main server, we're at 10% left. So I have to work with them on ways that we can maximize that space through archiving and other things. And switches are what connect us to those servers, right? And through various departments, we've got switches. There's some in public services building, there's some in police department. There's 2 different server or switches within the village here, Village Hall. So that switch upgrade was probably due this year. I've tried to push it off to next year, and knock on wood, we'll make it. But that's about $63,000 to increase all those things, sorry. And then the server upgrade, I have not had that discussion with Marco yet. Like I said, I'm hoping that we can archive some of those things and push off the server a little bit longer, but I don't think so. The other thing is we have a telephone system that's through TDS, their managed IP system. That was, all those costs were covered through our agreement we had with TDS to deploy fiber throughout our community. Back in 2019, I think maybe we signed that agreement. And we invested with TDS, I want to say it was $150,000, but then we could earn that back through whatever they might sponsor at events with us, or whatever we spent with them. So like we use them, they're our primary internet provider, and then the managed IP hosted system. I've looked around, there are others that we could probably switch to that would be less expensive for us. We've exhausted that $150,000 with TDS. It was $150,000 or 4 years or 5 years, whatever came first. We maximized that to its greatest ability. So it's time for us to look at that. So that's something I plan to do, and we would hopefully implement a new telephone system in the next year, more than likely cloud-based. It seems to be working well for us in that system. So, Brad?
Just curious if the IT consortium that you're looking at would change any of the needs here.
No, the IT consortium, I think, is more, helping us know what's out there and then what's best practice managements, and ideally to leverage it to potentially get lower IT costs. But I don't, the things that we have now are things we're going to need, whether we have a consortium or not. The other question with the server is whether to go hard server or to go to the cloud, right? Cloud is operational expense, buying servers is a capital expense. So what makes the most sense for us going forward?
Jim?
I guess that was gonna be my comment. I know I didn't think it was a good move when the DOT went to the cloud, but now that it's been done a few years, I'm actually in favor of it. So I'd recommend that for the village, or definitely look into it. I know we use a program called Box, but I know there's also other ones that probably are very similar.
The concern with having servers, they're here, right? If this place gets wiped out, those are gone, right? So there's not a backup. We don't have they're backed up here, right? So we need to find some way that's probably more secure. So I'm pretty confident we're probably going to move to some sort of a cloud scenario, or we have to find some sort of a backup scenario that we could have offsite somewhere else. But either way, there's a greater cost than what we have currently invested.
See, and I was told when the DOT went to it, it was actually a cost savings. We didn't want to rent the servers from the DOA anymore. So I hope it's a savings before you do.
Which department's up next?
So we have the clerk's office, and I think Kelly's going to carry us through both the clerk's office and elections, and then we'll conclude the presentation.
No finance?
I think finance, it doesn't have any particular slides, but we'll cover a number of items that pertain to finance, such as salaries and insurance, et cetera.
Kelly?
I'm up. So the clerk's office consists of myself and 3 full-time people and 1 part-time person. And here's our lovely picture in the corner. We do a large variety of things. We assist customers in person and on the phone. We also assist other departments within the village. We process all payments that come into the village, and utility, invoice, tax payments, and any other form of payment that comes in. It all stops at the front desk. We process and issue licenses and permits, including dog license, operator license, seller's permits, alcohol licensing. We mail do a lot of mailings to residents for information that road work and different projects that are going on that may affect them directly. I know we have one going out here this week for the Public Works Department. We sort all of the incoming mail, get it to the correct people, and also prepare all the outgoing mail. And of course, there's always election prep. And we get everything set and ready for the election, help residents with registration, absentee voting, all sorts of things. Anything election goes through us. So this is an overall of just the admin budget. Proposed changes, we have the utilities that is usually up by 5% annually. The major increase this year that I'm seeing would be with training and traveling costs. There are these numbers include the whole administration department. So it would be the clerk's office, finance, communications, administrator. And I know on my end, I would like for Joelle, the deputy clerk, to start taking the clerk certification program. It's a 3-year program offered by UW Green Bay. So I would like to get her started in that so that we have more than one certified clerk to step in if need be. And then, of course, with that, it's always the travel cost is there. Some of the trainings are virtual, some are conferences that are not virtual. Does anybody, Bill, anything you need to add to it?
Yeah, I just want to add, I mean, and as the community has grown, the team has grown. And so keeping up with professional development, and a lot of the staff that are part of associations, and or certifications. That's why you see this line item a little bit higher or significantly higher than what was previously.
Jim?
So on this slide, I'm looking at the one line that it's HR programs, and I looked at in 24 and 25, you spent, say, average around $3,000. Right now, we're spent about half that, and I guess we're halfway through the year, so it seems like we're on course for $3,000 again, but the budget is $11,000. Can you explain that, or what's the plan?
Yeah, so within the HR programs, so projects or events through Culture Club are in there. I don't know how much of that is so spent 2026. Brandon, do you know when this was updated?
This is updated in actual time, so that'd be like July or when we had just last updated the spreadsheet.
Yeah, so we'll have to take a look and see what has cleared through it at this point or not. We have, so the reason why it increased so much between 2020, I believe 2025 and 2026 is, if you remember back, a large number of training budget was in the future benefits revenue fund. And so what we did was we felt that it wasn't in the proper fund, and we moved that from the future benefits into the administration budget. And that's why there's a jump to it. Now, I can't directly answer your question as to why some of it's been spent and some of it has not been spent yet. I can imagine that there's potential expenditures upcoming yet that just hasn't happened.
I can confirm that there are expenditures that are going to be upcoming, and a lot of the HR programs are more geared towards the summer to fall when nicer weather, more opportunities for kind of that professional development, Culture Club, mobile truck outings, etc. within here. So the expenditures just raise more in the summer months now versus in the early winter months.
Next, elections. So next year we will have two elections, possible February if needed, and then the April spring election. With the main change in elections is updating our Badger books. They were purchased in 2018. They were all purchased at one time. So my goal is to purchase about 4 a year so that they are on a rotating cycle so we don't have to pay for all of them at one time again. We currently have 12 and I am planning to replace 4 a year and they are about $2,400.
Thank you. Next.
Oh, I'm not done.
Oh, you're not done.
No, we're still going. Then this is so overall of the election budget. I am proposing an increase of pay for our election inspectors. We currently pay our election inspectors $11 an hour and our chiefs $15 an hour. To stay competitive with other communities within Dane County. There needs to be an increase. More counties are paying, or more municipalities are paying higher. I'm proposing a $15 per hour for inspectors and 19 for our chiefs. And it would be approximately a $7,500 impact to the overall budget. Now I'm done.
Are you done?
So we did reach out to municipal court and they did review their budget. As you can see, I believe that the change from 26 budget to 27 is actually a reduction of about $2,000. We don't foresee any significant changes in our legal fees. Thank you, Al. Yeah. We haven't received it yet. As far as assessments, we are on a 5-year contract with associated appraisals. And so we don't expect to see any increase there. We do have a line item for property tax settlement, which includes our settlements for annexations and attachments. If you remember, per statute, we have to pay the 5 years following an annexation petition the taxes back to the township. So we haven't had any annexations, I think, in a year and a half. So we are budgeted. The budget's to be similar to last year's in regards to settlements. Wages, we're plugging in 3%. So we understand that we're very early in this discussion and that this number may go up or down. But we wanted to get an understanding of overall impact. And this is where, if you remember, if you look at our budget spreadsheets, finance breaks this down over the different departments and then revenue funds that are associated with the responsibility of the specific staff. In the past, we've looked at market salary adjustments. I think we're in a good spot in regards to pay equity, minus the election officials. And that's why we're bringing that forward this year. If you remember, last year was library. I think the year before that was public works. The year before that was, I think, some admin staff. And so we've been working the last couple of years to bring some pay equity into the current staffing levels. We already spoke about stipend for elected and appointed officials. For insurance, we are self-insured for dental. Last year, we did not increase anything in dental. We expect about a 3% increase this year just to maintain our funding availability for dental claims. We don't know about health insurance at this point. We're expecting anywhere between 5 and 15%. Disability, we don't have a answer to that yet. I don't expect an increase in disability. And then liability, property insurance, and workman's comp is the big one generally every year. we're working to try to get those numbers, and hopefully we'll have those numbers before October here. Previously, with the previous insurance company, we've had that number come in very late in the year, usually closer to November. We're hoping that those numbers come in earlier with our current provider. And then only staffing request that we have here, and again, this is up for debate, but I think Gavin left already. We've seen value in having a management intern. He's been able to pick up some of the slack on projects that have been on the back burner for a lot of the departments. And so being able to utilize that resource going into the future. Now, obviously, that's going to be dependent on kind of where we lay with the budget as we press forward. So currently, I believe that is the end of the presentation. Questions?
Jim?
I guess a comment that I know I've said to you, Bill, but I'll say it to the board. I am a strong proponent of interns, and I think they do help pick up a slack and a good help in many departments. So I'd be for increasing that if the individual departments feel that they could use one.
Okay, let's move on to department updates, administration.
Yeah, so 3 updates here quickly. Myself, Gavin, and Brandon attended the Wisconsin City County Managers Association Conference in La Crosse. It was a good learning opportunity. Want to mention and recognize Brandon. He did receive the Emerging Leaders Award, which is awarded to individuals that are recognized for early career and as someone who will eventually emerge. Second, we closed on the Laneburger Farm property. That property is under the ownership of the village. Spoken with Judd, Greg, and Reese. They will be working together to put together a timeline and process for facilities planning and park planning for that on that property. Some more to come. And then lastly here, Vienna had town of Vienna reached out to us in regards to in beginning discussions of a municipal boundary agreement. We have a meeting with them next week, and so it's I think a meeting to kind of find out or understand where each of the parties are at, and we'll continue to report on that as we work through that process.
Thank you. Finance?
Yeah, just a few updates from your emerging leader here. So we were able to reconcile our fire station number 2 expenses currently from 2025 all the way through 2026 here. So we're going to be beginning to get some invoices for that. If you remember, we had included $4 million of the cost into our initial debt issuances within here. Then that's kind of like for their first phase of the overall fire station upgrades that are going on over there. So we're going to be starting to collecting a couple invoices, a few larger amounts will be coming in here. We're going to have a presentation during the village board regarding our finalized audit report that'll be coming up here. This summer we'll be going through 4 separate tax increment district audits as well too. So we're going to have a fun summer of those audits as well as budgeting season. And then finally, we were able to finalize our debt issuance that you guys had given us the parameters resolution for. So that parameters resolution had issuances of up to 14.1 million. We were able to decrease that to $13.9 million of a debt issuance. That parameters resolution also included a projected total interest cost of 3.5%. We actually landed on 3.10%. So due to favorable bond terms and just through the timing of it, we're able to get a much better interest cost overall throughout the life of the debt issuance. That's going to be resulting in a savings of just over $500,000.
Good work from an emerging leader. Police department, is Chief Olson with us? Okay, no police department, public services update.
Sure. Just a couple of things we did. With Bill touched on acquiring the Landberger farm today. We treated that property for the weeds. We're not immune to maintaining our own control there. The weeds were getting pretty high through that 36, 40 acres. So those were treated today. An update on fluoride. I know several of you have asked for the grant. I did not get our application in a sufficient time. History has shown that that grant will become available again. I have already asked DHS if they will make it available again. She was on vacation. I'm expecting to hear back from Department of Health Services on that. But I anticipate that will be there. And part of that was negligence on my part, so I'll take the blame. But Veerbecker is working diligently on the program for adding fluoride in at wells 3 and 4. They've got paperwork filled out. They're gathering the remaining things. They are finalizing the plans for the building upgrades at 3 and 4 that are required when we add the fluoride back in, such as the body wash stations, the eye wash station, any venting that needs to be improved there for venting for fluoride, or the what we put in for fluoride, and then they will submit all of that to the Department of Natural Resources for review. They are also working at the same time on wells 2 and 6, which have bigger upgrade components to those. So they will be implementing those. So we do have time on the grant. We have not expended any dollars yet. We won't have that for at least another couple months until we have to purchase equipment and things. So with that, as I said, I'm pretty confident that grant will come back, and we will submit in a timely fashion to get our application in for that. Questions on that?
Fred.
A few meetings ago, you had talked about getting pricing for recycling on an every week basis. Did you ever get what that would cost for every week recycling on the contract?
It's probably $200,000 right now. It'll be the cost. We are going to go out for RFP for garbage here. So our contract with LRS is up this year. So we will be putting out an RFP probably yet this month to go out for bids to get pricing. So we have that for budgeted for next year. Usually we get a better price when we go for RFP for those first few years, right? Or we get increased, or the cost is the same, but we get increased services, right? So we're working on that. That's a thing that we're working with Brandon on, right? So that's another intern thing he's helping us with that. So we are working through that process. So, but when I've estimated in the past, that's about what that cost would be, because that's half of that is what it costs for 1 week. So to add it for the second week is about that price.
Your intern's name is Gavin. Your emerging leader over here named Brandon is having a fit.
Say the wrong name. He's emerging.
Community development.
Well, I'll just add one more thing. Just wanted to let everybody know that we've started our stream bank stabilization project and restoration project along the Yahara River. Here's a couple of drone photos of this down by Blue Stem. Can kind of see the work area. Trying to get to a couple better pictures here. But as you can see, this is a canoe launch right here along the boardwalk. This will be nice grass mowed up to the gravel. They'll have access to the river, and this is rotwats that are in the banks and dug into the river. That'll provide fish habitat, and when the river gets high, it'll prevent washout erosion. Let's see, there's a couple more pictures. We're here. All of this area too has been reseeded with native grasses and flowers and stuff like that. But J hooks have been also implemented in the river. This helps divert water away from the shores, and then it provides a like a little pool behind it to collect sediment and scouring areas. So just wanted to show you this. We're also working over, there's a deer, over by Woods Glen Court right now and Sunnybrook Park. So that'll be a couple week project. Let's see. No, I've got some pictures. I don't know if it's on this one. The Woods Glen Court area is quite intensive. We've got matting out here to get trucks and backhoes back to this area back here. You can see this knob is gonna get it's like probably 5 feet in the air above the water line. So that'll be getting graded and a lot of soil removed from this area. So it'll be quite the project. Just want to let you guys know after 3 years, we finally got earth moved and things started on this project.
Thank you. Nice job. Community development? I'm sorry, what? Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna ask Greg or Judd. And the way I remember the stream bank restoration was like a 5-year plan. So are we doing 3 years this year? Or
2 years. This is phase 1 and phase 2 together.
thank you.
Community development has nothing. Thank you. Administrative services update. Recreation and community enrichment update.
So we hosted our second 4th of July celebration this past weekend. First off, Trisha has done an amazing job with taking over this event and organizing it all. And we have a lot of help from the public service team, fire, PD, Stacy with communication. So it really does, as they say, take a village. And I do really think back to when the chamber ran it, and I'm really impressed with what they did for a number of years with what it takes to go into that event. So this year for the parade, we had, I think it was like 10 or 15 more floats than the year before. And thank you for our wonderful judges for awarding 3 awards for the floats this year. So I think that's a fun new thing for us to be able to start doing. We had 3,900 people that attended the parade this year. Last year we were at about 3,400. On the 3rd, we had about 18,500 people in the park. Compared to last year, it was about 18,100. And on the 4th, we had about 5,100 people, where last year was 4,700. So we're maintaining good numbers. Our sales were down just a little bit this year in the beer tent, but otherwise I still feel like it was a really great event. And we were also able to show the community mural. So actually, if someone could pull up, I have a photo for if anyone hasn't seen it. That was completed. So this is another project that Trisha was working on. It is over 600 tiles to make this complete image. And I know Greg helped a lot. Our maker at the library, she helped a lot. And Jan Hoffman volunteered a lot of her time to help with fixing some tiles, putting this all together, and running classes and stuff like that. So it came out amazing, and it will be displayed on the public service building so people can see it at Fireman's Park while they're at our events in the future. So another really amazing project. When Trisha first brought this to me last year, the hope was for us to unveil it for 4th of July, for it being the 250th year. And there were times where I was like, there's no way that's happening. And she's like a magician. She pulled a rabbit out of her hat and got this done. So we're also in the process right now of working on our fall winter program guide. So that will be released on August 14th. And we have started doing some digital or some hard prints for that we have at a couple of places throughout the community. And then we were just notified our wonderful new farmers market manager actually got offered a full-time job Monday through Friday. And they're not able to be flexible with a schedule. So unfortunately, we are going to be looking for a new market manager. I think Christina's done a wonderful job. So we're bummed, but we're full steam ahead of finding a new person. So That's it.
Thank you, and I apologize for interrupting. Communications.
Can I add a note?
Oh, I'm sorry, Alicia, go ahead.
I was out and about at the 4th of July, so I think I saw you like out there late picking up trash. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who was at the event and worked. I saw Trisha like late night and then early morning. So and everyone in the parade as well. So just a shout out. It makes me like feel so proud of our community. And it wouldn't go on without you guys. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alicia. Stacy.
No real update, just busy with the 4th of July. I think you guys all received a copy of a piece of work that Deep D did last week. It was going to be digital. It turned out so fantastic that we ended up going to print. So that's something that's going to be happening going forward. So just want to showcase one of our pieces of work that we've done.
Thank you. DeForest Windsor Fire and EMS Chief is not here. He's at his son's birthday party. They are pouring the foundation on the second station this week, and it's going well. Budget's looking good for 26 and hoping the increase in 27 is minimal. And no concerns from this weekend. Everything on their end went well. Is there any other business that lawfully comes before the committee? Okay, then it's our motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Alicia.
Second.
There's a second. Oh, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. They're adjourned at 6:32. And let's take a 10-minute break. Okay, let's call to order the village board meeting for July 7th at 6:42 p.m. Kelly, would you note the roll, please? Trustee Brown, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. We have no announcements other than, as I mentioned at the first meeting. Welcome to Trustee Brown to his first meeting. Consent agenda. Would anyone like anything separated? Okay.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Jim, second by Brad to approve. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Number 6, general appearances under this section, not regarding items not listed on the agenda. We have none. Presentation of the 2025 annual audit. Brandon.
Yeah, thank you. So I mentioned during the work session, we're going to have a presentation now of our 2025 annual financial reports. So we have Leah Gaffney here from Baker Tilly, who is a senior manager with Baker Tilly. She and her team were heavily involved within the audit. And then also Carol is back behind us as well, too, as her and the rest of the finance team were heavily involved and only came in at the very back end of it all within here. So I'm going to be turning it over to Leah, who is going to go over the supporting document number 1 that was included within your packet, the financial highlights. There is a second supporting document within there as well too, which is a summary of like the reporting and insights that had occurred within the village within here. Nothing really dramatically had changed between there from last year to this year, but it's just a good document to review. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, we can address those as well too. But from there, I'll turn it over to Leah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I see a few new faces. So as Brandon mentioned, Leah Gaffney, Senior Manager with Baker Tilly. I am one of about 7 or 8 folks that work with the village for the annual financial audit. I merely focus on the municipal funds. We do have kind of a separate sub team that focuses on utility, and then again, CDA focused team as well. So altogether, we make up the team for the audit that we work with the village on. As far as the timeline recap, just to give you an idea what our timing looks like. So we typically do our planning in kind of like that fall, October, November, December timeframe. We come back around the end of March, beginning of April, over kind of a couple week timeframe. Again, those 3 different teams kind of some overlap, but we do have field work in kind of a couple weeks around that time frame. And then we have we help the village prepare required state reports. So the Wisconsin PSC that's required for the water utility, and the annual financial report that's required by the DOR. As well as the issuing the financial statements. So we did that just yesterday, issued and final. Essentially, that just means we're finished with our, we've concluded our audit, we've provided the deliverables, and that timing is pretty consistent to years past. So big thank you to village staff for helping us throughout the way, staying prepared, responding to questions, requests, things like that, to be able to issue that timely and consistently to years past. So as Brandon mentioned, there's a couple of deliverables that were provided as part of the audit. The first one being the financial statements. So that is a summary of the year's financial activity, as well as the required disclosures, in addition to our opinion as external auditors. So really one of the main reasons why you have an audit is to obtain an opinion. And as years past, we've provided an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion, which is what the village has received in the past. And it's kind of like the goal of the audit, one of the main goals of the audit. And then the reporting and insights talks about internal control matters, if there are any material audit entries that we made as part of our work, future standards, so requirements that the village has to follow, that we usually work with the village to implement any sort of new rules or changes. And then, of course, our contact information. If you guys have any questions while you're reviewing that document, feel free to reach out to any of us regarding what we do, the financials, or any of the deliverables that we have. So I'm going to focus mainly on what was provided in the packet, so the financial highlights. This essentially covers your general fund, some debt remarks, and then the utilities is what we typically cover. So it kind of just puts the financial statements into kind of illustration graph form to make it maybe a little bit more easy to look at. So the first page here is your general fund. So the village's main operating fund. You can see the fund balance. So this is essentially when you take the general fund's assets, remove the liabilities, this is what you have left, is your fund balance. So it did increase by just over $500,000 in 25 from 24. There are certain requirements or restrictions that make up some of the balances, but the majority of the balance is unassigned, which essentially unrestricted, no requirements or assignments that are assigned to those amounts. That did have the biggest increase, about 535,000 of that 545,000. We'll talk a little bit more about the unassigned amount in the next slide. But I do want to talk about kind of the budget to actual. So you did approve a balanced budget. So assuming the revenues and covered 100% of the expenditures, no more, no less. The actual came out to, again, that 545,000 that I mentioned. The biggest drivers of that positive variance was your investment earnings. So favorable return on investments, in addition to building permits coming up more than budgeted. Any questions on that slide? So we do like to take that unassigned balance that I mentioned in the previous slide and compare it to the policy. So the village's policy is that that balance is within between 15 and 25% of the following year's budget. That includes the general funds budget in addition to some special revenue funds. So you can see black line being the upper range of the policy, the blue being the lower, and then the red orange is kind of what the 5-year trend has been. So you can see at the end of 25, really hitting that upper range there. So just something to consider as you're planning and reviewing activity for the current year. Any questions on the general fund? Yes.
Just a quick question, that the 24.8%, do you know approximately how many dollars those are?
Yes, so that would be the 2.7. This 2,698,487 is the essentially the numerator of that calculation, and then the denominators just under 11 million. So that represents about $2.7 million. Next, we like to mention the outstanding debt that the village has and compare it to the 5% debt limit that the state limits. As you can see, very large gap between the current outstanding debt and what the village has for capacity to issue debt if needed. It doesn't, the amount that's listed here is not the entire debt of the village. It does have some revenue debt, which is backed by utility revenue. So that's why it does not get included with all other general obligation debt for that calculation. Next is the water utility. So the water utility is restricted to increase rates based on the PSC's approval. So it just notes the rate of return that the water utility is authorized to receive, and then the actual. So it did dip below 0 positive percent this year. And this is mainly due to some operating expenses, essentially being larger than operating revenue. And this is mainly due to the River Road Tower painting that was required for the current year. So certainly not doesn't appear to be a recurring expense that would be of concern. As you can see, the 5-year trend has always had an operating income in the past. So wouldn't have any concerns there, in addition to the review that the village typically does on potential rate increases as well. Unrestricted reserves, that's essentially what cash you have, and how long it would cover your operations. So the GFOA recommends anything above 6 months plus 1 year, 1 year of routine capital work. You can see that the water utilities year end is at just under 22 months. So a good healthy balance there. Debt coverage, this relates to the revenue debt that the water utility has. So it is required by that revenue debt to have 1.25 of coverage, and it's at 3.15. So again, over that that debt coverage requirement. For investment capital, this is essentially what's in and on the ground and how is it financed. Anything above the 50% equity is typically a good illustration. So a good healthy balance of equity versus debt there in the water utility. The sewer utility saw operating income in the current year. Again, annual rate review just allows for those operating revenues to stay above those ever increasing expenses for the utilities. Just under 11 months for those reserves, and then just under 4. So well above the 1.25 that's required. And again, the 87% equity. So all good things there. Lastly is the stormwater utility. Same thought here as far as reviewing for annual increases. Operating results proved to be positive, coming out with the operating income there. There is no revenue debt for the stormwater utility, and the reserves are just above 3 months there. So a little behind the GFOA recommendation, but still positive there. And then a majority of the capital is financed by equity. So a good healthy 94% for the stormwater utility. That is all I had for noted remarks. Happy to take any questions on any of the deliverables or anything I covered tonight.
I guess we don't have anything.
Okay, appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. So overall, we're in good shape. You have to put it in simple terms for me. Okay, next up, 2026 annual tax increment financing report. Alex. Oops, that looked, oh, Brandon and Alex.
Thought it might be easier to hop over here and do this. All right, so we prepared a annual report on our tax increment financing and our TID districts overall. This gets partnered with annually, the municipality has to file what's called a PE 300 annual report. That's essentially just a summary of the annual report of each of the TIF districts. So with this annual report and with the upcoming joint review board meeting, we just prepare a presentation just to give an overall status updates on all of our TID districts. Any way we can zoom out? Oh wait, I can do that. There we go. I'm still emerging. This is our location map of all of our TIF districts within here. The one thing that'll change after this year is TID 3 will have parentheses here and say closed as well. That TID was officially closed a little bit earlier this year, and we're going to have a final audit for the TID district that's occurring this summer. That's one of the 4 TIF district audits that I was referencing before. So starting off kind of basic, we can discuss how tax increment financing works. So the first thing I'll point out is this creation point within here. So before a TIF district is established, the value of the land or the value of the area within there is a baseline property value. So if we use rounding whole numbers, for example, let's say that property value was $100,000. When that TIF district is created, there's a line that's drawn within there that says that 100,000 is going to continue to be the baseline property value. That much of the taxes generated is going to stay within its general operations. Any kind of increment that comes out of it is going to be segregated into a separate TID fund. And that's what this orange part is here within here. So throughout the life of a TID, there's numerous different projects that go on. Commercial buildings, housing, public services, etc. within there, and that increment continues to increase. Throughout a life of a TID, TIDs are required to have at least 3 audits. So one's going to be a 30% audit when 30% of the plan is done, marked like right around this point within here. Another audit's going to be at 100%. So when 100% of the expenditure plan is done. And then a final audit is required as well too. Once all of your expenditures are done, once the entire plan is done by itself, then a final audit is commenced to essentially close the district. That final audit kind of marks the termination cycle within here. And so when a TID closes, then the value of the termination of the TIF all comes together and goes within the general operations again. Graphs that you'll see within here come directly from the Wisconsin Department of Revenue. So this graph within here shows the village's equalized value compared to net new construction. The blue bar chart graphs within here are the equalized value, while the orange line represents net new construction. So it's just kind of correlating to the fact of just more growth within here is increasing its overall net construction within here. The village had ended 2025 with around like 2.3 million of equalized value and around 7.8% of net new construction. Within the village itself, DOR is able to come out and say how much of your growth and net new construction is factored by different levels within here. So the blue part, which represents around 43%, is your housing portion within here, the residential portion. The reddish part, maroon, which is about 57%, is the commercial fraction of that. And then there's a very small orange part on top, which is manufacturing as well too.
I'll just chime in here. So a little later this month, or perhaps in August, we're going to have a review of our comprehensive plan. And one of the goals of an economic development benchmark in the comp plan is a diversification of tax base. So this chart is one to particularly pay attention to, and to see the proportion shift off of the residential tax base in terms of the burden. It's something that we're striving for. So.
Excellent. Now the next 16 slides are going to kind of have the same kind of functionality within here, kind of look the same. There's going to be a slide that kind of shows the increment value growth of the TIF district, the mapping of it, as well as a few kind of key parcels within here and some important numbers. And then there'll be another slide that kind of goes into the details. So we're going to do this for TIF 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So TIF number 2 here was created in 2009. And if you remember back in that chart when we had talked about the baseline property value, that baseline property value for TIF 2 was at $27,900. And currently it is at a value of $130 million right now. So the taxes that are generated from the difference of that 27,000 to 130 million is segregated into the TIF fund within there, used for the specific projects within the TIF. All land is developed or soon to be developed within that district, and that expenditure period is officially closed. And the TID is set to expire in 2035 unless if we deem that we can close it earlier. Facts about TIF 2. So this left side is going to be information that comes from that PE 300 annual report within there. And then the right information is just more general information about the district itself. The last amendment to that TID 2 had was the summer of 2023. Total annual revenue was under $1.8 million for this past year. Annual expenditures, 2.6 million. Year-end fund balance, 1.3. We are forecasting future costs at just under 10.5 million. And then we'll come up with future revenues of 29.8 million with a surplus of 20.4 million. Alex, if there's anything to highlight about existing agreements or anything?
So just to jump back up to the previous slide, you can see between 2024 and 2025, we had a pretty significant jump in the increment value. Most of that, actually about likely all of that, is attributed to the DeForest Yards development. Much of the construction of that took place in that year. That still has a couple more apartment buildings that are underway, so that'll also bolster the district. And then additionally on this blue parcel here, single family residential associated with the Homestead Edition. So that's a 60 lot single family development. And I think checking in, they've had 5 building permits so far this year on that. So that'll start to continue to build increment in this district there. I would have previously mentioned that the Town Place Marriott Suites and the athletic complex that you all have seen come through from Cascade Development would be on these parcels here in TID 2, but that is no longer TID 2. We'll talk about that when we get to TID 7. We did a boundary amendment TID 7 that sort of covers those 2 parcels, so we'll get there.
Perfect. Oh, yes, Jim.
So I'll say for my information, but also for others, it's like I've gone around Wisconsin, I'm guessing we all have, and TIFs haven't been as successful in other communities as they are here. I feel like we've got a gift where you're going through these TIDs, and I think they all end up being positive. That is great, but I also look at like this one in particular, and I think some of the other ones are coming up. I mean, these are like, to me, huge numbers when you're saying in 2035 that these are going to come offline, I'll say, and become onto the taxes. And I'm wondering, how do we prepare for that, and what really is that? Because to not knowing the numbers, it feels like that's a lot of taxes that are going to come in.
Yeah, so then the dates that they're reading off here, so 2035 is the statutory closing date of this tax increment district. I don't think we're going to get there. I think the revenues in this district, looking at our forecasting, is likely going to end or pay off all the obligations in 2028. And so we were, if you remember, a couple of years ago, or the year over year, we amended a lot of our tax increment districts to put forth projects and budgets to be able to forecast early closure of each of the tax increment districts. So 28, 29, 30, 31, we're hoping to line up our tax increment districts to close out early a year after another, so that we can effectively plan the financials into those years. TID 8 and TID 9 have not been extended at this point, and so both of those tax increment districts were created in 2017, and both will close in 2037 at this point. But so there's a little bit of maneuvering, I think, that we have, and decisions to be made. You have options to extend once a tax increment district is done paying for its obligation. You can obviously extend now up to 2 years for affordable housing. So that's something to think about. We have facilities needs upcoming in 28, 29 that potentially we could be able to structure debt service off of revenues that will be coming back to the village upon closure of the tax increment district, or, you can choose to pay off debt or reduce the mill rate. I mean, there's a number of, I think, choices to be had and decisions to be made based off of what we forecast the closing dates will actually be, not the statutory dates.
And you'll see that reflected on these slides where there is in the internal projections that we maintain, separate from the reporting to DOR, where it says potential for early closure in the slides, that's where we're potentially anticipating those.
And then I just want to add, so the forecasting is done based off of the information that we know now. So based off the most recent assessments and based off of the most recent mill rates. So if those assessments drop significantly and or the mill rate changes significantly, that impacts the revenues coming into that tax increment district to pay off these obligations. So if we drop significantly, right now, the overall mill rate in the Village of DeForest is, I believe, $17.89 or 49 cents per thousand of value. If the village drops its mill rate significantly, say going from $5.86 to $5, and the school district, which controls 50% of that total tax bill, drops significantly, you can see how much a dollar change in the overall mill rate over the life of the tax increment district will impact the ability to pay. So all of that matters as we discuss budgets and discuss a sustainable financial plan, at least until our tax increment districts start to close.
And just one last piece on that too. Obviously, Bill in particular, structuring those closures strategically based on the village's financial, future, but we're maintaining good communications with the school district because when these come back onto the rolls, they'll be impacting them as well.
Brad.
Can you just explain a little bit the future cost, revenues and surplus, and just explain that a little bit further, how you get those numbers, what it means?
Yeah, so it takes a look at the overall plan of the entire TIF district and just using our own internal forecasting spreadsheets within our financials and going off of what Bill was saying a bit more of like our current assessments and our current mill rates. We project and we calculate that out through the life of the entire TIF district. So again, that's saying if it closes by 2035, that is the projection, the calculation that we're coming up with and submitting over to DOR for that. But like Bill had mentioned too, as soon as we're finished paying off of our obligations within there, then we assess at that point of do we close it right now or do we do the state statutorial options of extending it out for affordable housing or not.
So the total obligations right now would be 10 million.
And so each TIF district has a project plan which has infrastructure costs associated with it. This is a particularly good example because the expenditure period is past. So we're not doing any more public projects. So I would venture to say that most, if not all of that future cost, there's obviously some admin in there, but it's probably debt services, most of that for a project that we've already undertaken.
Well, this district, most of it is business incentive. There was a large tax increment financing deal with Cascade Development, which included a facility bond and two public improvement bonds for Monticello construction extension, and then Highway 51 Williamsburg Way intersection. So I would imagine that the obligations remaining here are associated with that. I do know that in this district there are no other business incentive bonds. There is one more infrastructure bond, which is the municipal parking lot and the 2-acre lot. And so those are the remaining obligations. Obligation means whether it could be a public project or it could be a simple business incentive bond that's out there. So the future revenues, again, this is kind of projected all the way out through 2035. The statutory expenditure And so the closing date is whenever your revenues, future revenues pays off your future costs, which we're projecting currently in that 2020 timeframe.
Yeah, that's a really good point to note too. So back on the previous slide here, when we say like the expenditure period is closed, so within our TIF plan statutorily, we only have a set amount of time of where we can incur new expenses within there or amend the plans to incur new expenses. So once we hit that expenditure close period, any obligations we have at that point, those are the obligations. So everything within this total or within the annual expenditures and the forecasted future costs are those are just obligations that we have already within there, nothing new.
And the village is obligated to close the tax increment district once the obligations of the district are paid off. So where you see the line that says surplus of 20 million there, that anticipates running it all the way out to 2035. We're never going to get to a $20 million surplus within the life of the TID because we'd be required to close it before then.
Perfect. Like I said, too, these last two slides are going to be kind of reoccurring ones as we go out through the rest of the TIF district. So TIF 3 within here, this one was created in 2009. That baseline value was just under $1 million. Looking at it, we're just under $37 million of total value. Within here, there's roughly 30 developable acres remaining, and the district now has been closed within here. If you all remember from previous discussions, there's that Home Reach program that was developed from the increment of this past year. That revenue within there was used to create that Home Reach program and used for that affordable housing portion within there. So again, just going through like the statutorial times, you come up with these types of same numbers within here. Again, as we go through annual expenditures and the future year fund balances, future costs, these are just going to be kind of repeating facts within here. So we have a final audit pending for TID number 3. Again, that's going to be coming up throughout this summer within here. And once that is, then that's going to finalize and close out that tax increment district. So as we're currently budgeting for 2027, we are already projecting out like what is going to occur through our mill rate by having that TID 3 close within there. And we're just forecasting that out with this future debt borrowing within here, and just we'll be presenting more facts and figures on that as soon as we have a little bit more concrete numbers. TID number 4, created in 2009 as well too, at the base value of $345,000. Currently, if I'm seeing that correctly, it is 66 million, I believe, $65 million of value. There's roughly 30 developable acres remaining within here too. The statutorial expenditure period has closed, and this one again statutorily is set to expire in 2035. Last year of amendment was 2014. Here are the figures of those numbers again, projecting out through the closed period of 2035. And we have a few existing agreements within there for Kaplan and Bell. Again, we are looking at, with this TID district in particular too, looking at closing that potentially early 2028, 2029.
The only thing I'll add here, Bill previously mentioned in discussion about managing TIF closures, you know, if a mill rate drops, what happens? So this is a district that hasn't experienced a lot or any growth realistically, or net new construction. And you can see a little dip in 24, and that was primarily because of a drop in the mill rate. So there is impacts that can occur. On the development side of things, Bell Labs is the primary development here. They did get approval for a minor site plan expansion. They haven't started construction on that yet. So that's something that we're anticipating either this year or next.
tax increment district number 5. This one was created in 2010 at a base value of 350,000. The current value is $93.5 million within here, with a little bit of an increase from 2024 to 2025. 65 developable acres remaining. This expenditure period had closed as well too, set the statutorial requirement of a closure of 2036. But again, as we've said with the past few districts, we're looking at possibly closing that early as well. And so we're trying not to have everything close on the exact same year, but potentially look at what does it look like when one closes 2027 and then 28 and then 29, or years differences like that, just depending on how it looks financially and then also how it impacts state programs. So some state shared revenues that we get, for example, such as like the expenditure restraint program, where if we balance funds in an appropriate way and have mill rates and proper expenditure increases within there, then we get extra revenues from the state for that. If we dip down too much in mill rates within there, then we disqualify from state programs within there, which ultimately affects how much revenues we'll be getting from state shared services. So it's just kind of all a balancing act within here of how do we fiscally manage the closings of these while still being qualified for state programs.
I'll just add a couple things on this one too. So because we are past the expenditure period, typically you'll see less development in the TIF district post that date. I would say the development that has occurred, the construction that has occurred that you'll see reflected in the numbers here is mostly residential in nature. Even though we're past the expenditure deadline here, I think we will see some future development over the next couple of years and some value increases. I think 2 years ago, perhaps maybe last year, there was a site plan approval for 175 unit multifamily development just to the east of the athletic complex on this little green parcel. They haven't started construction yet, so we're still anticipating that that may potentially move forward. What is it called? I always forget the names of these things. Hidden Valley Condos is a project that Brian Sippel is developing north of Pinseekers on River Road. I believe that's in the yellow parcel up here. That still has value to come in. And then you've seen concept presentations associated with the Continuum of Care senior facility that we're also anticipating to have develop here in the next couple of years as well.
Excellent. So tax increment district number 6. This one had started off at a little bit higher base value than other tax increment districts at 2.7 million. As of 2025, that current value is at just under 77 million within here. 5 developable acres remain within here that the village owns. Expenditure period has closed on that as well, with statutorial closing 2036. You're going to hear kind of the same facts within here of the public projects are going to be completed. This might be one they might be looking at closing early as well too. Again, it's just all within that financial planning within here, and you'll notice that there's a considerable amount more of existing agreements within here too. So as we had mentioned before, a tax increment district has to pay off all the obligations. So with each of these agreements within your Little Potato, Central Land, etc., each of those have existing obligations within them. So if those are all completed early, we could look at closing it early. If not, then we're looking at the statutorial closing of the 2036.
I'll just share 2 things on this one. I believe our projections do anticipate that this will go the full life of the district. So if it is able to close early, it'll just be a year or 2 likely. And then you can see steady growth and then a spike last year, primarily due to Lake City Glass. They had their 40,000 square foot headquarters complete construction, and then the Dickman Company, which is now for the Porter Pipe and Supply building there, that was 180,000 square foot industrial that came into tax rolls as well.
It's one question that you answered, so it's likely going to go close to the life of the TID. That Shanku site is there, and if that would return say, out of village ownership, that would then add to the tax, correct?
Yeah, so currently the projection, as I look at the spreadsheet, has it going out to 2034, 2035, depending on the rates and what is remaining to be developed. So this tax increment district, it had expenses, not only the in business part, but that's also assisted in acquisition for the Yahara Crossing project through the CDA. So as you can see, with this being kind of later in 2034, 35, we had a couple that Brandon and Alex had already mentioned in that 28, 29 timeframe. And so you can start to see a strategy come together as we take 1-year extension or 2-year extensions. We can then layer the expiration or the closing date of these tax increment districts throughout several different years and be able to really take advantage of kind of softening that tax impact versus a large cliff where you're having multiple tax increment districts closing at one time. So we will continue to explore ways to do that. And as projects come up and we conduct our analysis, financial analysis on public improvements, roads, water, sewer, in addition to the amount of business incentives that we may propose per project. We always have this timeline at the back of our minds.
Tax increment district number 7. So this one had started off with a base value of just under 4.5 million. Currently, it is up to $143 million of increment value. This one is a little bit larger of a tax increment district where it has 100 developable acres remaining. Again, this expenditure period had ended and we're looking at the closing that's when the expenditure period ended itself. It ended June 7th of 2026, and that will have a statutorial closing of like 2035, 2036, I believe. We have a graph at the very end that summarizes each of these. Facts within here again, this one had a recent amendment in the summer of 2025. Annual revenues, what we're forecasting so far. Again, that's all the way through the statutorial closing. However, just with the existing agreements within here and having already the expenditure close period within here and not being able to take on any more obligations, this one could be looked at again, closing potentially early 2029, 2030. So again, just highlighting Bill's point again of layering each of these versus stacking them all up in the same year.
Going back up to the previous slide, you can see 2021 was clearly the Hooper year. That was the year I think in which Hooper broke ground. And then it's been substantial growth since then. Last year, I think that was primarily driven by continued residential growth. So the Fox Hills Estates neighborhood, and then again, I'm not good with these condos names. I think it's Bear Tree. Condos at Bear Tree. Nobody? Anyone? No.
Which one?
Condo development north of Hooper. You remember the name of it? The condos, the ridge. Anyway, condo development. And they're plugging along. This was amended last year. You can see the yellow boundary amendment here as well as project plan amendment. And so the Marriott Town Place Suites that I mentioned is anticipated to begin construction this summer, if it hasn't already. And then the athletic complex is planning to come in for their entitlements later this fall, as well as Enclave Residential already underway with construction as well. So this, you're likely to just see this sort of trend of a straight line that way.
Just a quick correction to the early expenditure, the termination date and closing early. The current forecast does show it closing early, but because of the current obligation of TIF for Cascade Development. That's looking like it's a 2033 for obligations to be paid off.
Two more. Tax increment district number 8 was created in 2017, and that had a base value of 6.7 million. Currently, it is around 51 million here, but you can see throughout the past couple of years, 2022, 2021, throughout 2025, the amount of development hasn't been significantly so much as we talked about before about the changing of mill rates. So that being dipped down from 2023 to 2024 has a direct impact into that, and just with lower levels of development, that kind of makes it sustain at a constant level versus the increasing level within here. This one again had an expenditure period this one ends in August 12th, 2032. Apologies on these numbers kind of overlapping and stuff within here. This one has roughly 45 developable acres remaining within here. Prior plans is last amended in 2018. We have the numbers here projecting out through the end of the expenditure period. This one within here did not have any net new construction in 2025. So again, it kind of just correlates with that constant line within there and why there just wasn't a huge spike within there.
So I think you'll see a lot of the value. Obviously, there's been a lot of construction out there with Continental Continental Properties having 300 units of multifamily in this general vicinity. So next year, this graph will look substantially different as well. Tierney Cottage Homes, which is 12 cottage homes that were approved on the west side of Tierney Crossing, I think that is. And then the Labor's International Union Training Center has also had an expansion approved that they're anticipating to get going on this year as well.
And now tax increment district number 9, the village's last one here. So it was created in 2017. It had a base value of just 7.5 million. That is currently up to 44 million with more contracts and plans being approved within here. The expenditure period ends in August of 2032, and this one has the most amount of potential development available at another 300 acres remaining within here. Forecasting it out for its eventual end, we're looking at these numbers here to the left. The net new construction for 2025 was 1.7 million. And as we noted within here, and as Alex will touch on, just there's going to be substantial new growth within 2026 and beyond.
Yeah, so this district obviously has a lot going on, both from a development side and then also a public project side. So you can see in the remaining projects, Hickory Lane reconstruction is this year, possible interchange reconstruction, contribution, Green Acres, EFCO Drive. A lot of this we time with development. So we're not preemptively doing this as development occurs. We'll do most of these projects. Going back to the graph, it looks like there hasn't been a lot of activity. As you all know, Fiduciary Real Estate Development Company, they've got 300 units that they're actively developing that'll are under construction now on River Road. That'll bring substantial tax base in. The Dickmans completed their first building on Cake Parkway. That hasn't hit this value yet. They have approval for a second one that'll start construction this summer, anticipating this summer, and then the 218,000 square foot Amazon facility as well. So this district is going to see a lot of activity over the next couple of years.
Excellent. So throughout all the past slides, this chart just kind of summarizes all of the activity within here, when all of them are statutorily supposed to expire, all the base values and the current increment value. So you can see here from before tax increment district was established, or when it first was established, all the base value of that land was, or properties within there, was 23 million. And now the total value of all of them is at $641 million. It just goes to prove that tax increment districts are a significant economic tool when done appropriately within here. If we don't do it, other municipalities are currently doing it. So Pin Seekers, Fleet Farm, Quick Trip, Amazon, et cetera, all these places that provide jobs, entertainment opportunities, housing for DeForest. If we don't offer the districts and the supports and the developer agreements, well, then they're going to go over to Sun Prairie, Wanakee, Madison, anywhere else that's going to be providing these benefits, because the state incentivizes and wants you to maximize out these TIF districts. So you might be questioning yourself of, why don't we just open up a few more and just keep this going? Statutorily, you can only have 12% of your equalized value in a municipality in a TIF district. Right now, with all the growth that we've had within there, our total equalized value within our TIF districts is just under 25%. So at the time of when they're established, they were below 12%, but due to all the construction, commercial development, residential development has exceeded that amount. And so this goes in line with the careful consideration of when to close each of these as well too, and opportunities to come in the future of looking at new districts as well too, when we're talking about future growth plans and comprehensive plans. This DOR chart just again supports the past slide of where this little blue line here was the base value. The orange line or the orange graph is the total increment value, and the red line just supports of how much extra value that the municipality has been provided due to its strategic tax increment growth. And then the last chart within here is another DOR chart just supporting the fact of there's the 12% limit of equalized value of your tax increment districts, and right now we're just below 25%. Any further questions for us?
Jim?
You go back, I think 3 slides where you show like say 9, even though it's 8.
This one here or the?
Yep, this one. So there's the 12% that we want to get under, I'll say, to be talking about maybe doing another TIF. And then you have the closing dates of like the 35 and 36. And I know as you went through them, a lot of them probably going to be closer to 28, 29. When do we anticipate to get below the 12%? Are we talking 2030 to 2032?
That's, yeah, so I think we're gonna have to close, 3 tax increment districts to get under that 12%, considering that we're gonna continue to grow at TID 9 and TID 8. So if you just do the simple math, I mean, you take a look at, TID 2 there, I think was one that was early, TID 4. That's 8% or 7.5% between just those two, and then plug in TID number 5. If everything was held constant, I think that would then get you under that 12%.
Some of these TIDs that are the later closeout ones, are we modifying the mill rate as we go forward in those years?
Well, that modification of the mill rate is up to you. As you decide on the budgets, and how much you want to shave off that mill rate. And then, we're kind of at the will of also the other jurisdictions at what rates they're at too. So as we discussed before, looking at not only the budget, but, what is the short-term and long-term impact to us as we decide what that mill rate's going to be. This is exactly what we're talking about here. We have long-term investments, not only in public infrastructure, but also in the number of business deals out there that we also need to pay attention to. It's not just only the general fund that we have to pay attention to.
Are we all good? Thank you, gentlemen. Old business 8.1, resolution 2026-087, a resolution authorizing the village president and village clerk to execute a grant agreement with JNB DeForest Senior LP. Staff presentation, Alex.
So this came before you in a June meeting, I believe. This was an application for grant funds through the new Home Reach DeForest program, which we just kind of touched on a little bit here. The memo in the packets kind of includes some of the key terms. The developer is in the room if there are any questions. We tried to tie certain items in the agreement to milestones, construction milestones, occupancy milestones, as well as a commitment to a land use restriction of affordability, obviously with the intention of the program itself being the promotion of affordable housing. So happy to answer any questions on the terms, but this is generally consistent with the review that you all gave at the application meeting.
Do we have any public appearances, Kelly? Okie dokie. I'm looking for a motion for approval of resolution 2026-087.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Melanie, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Alicia, discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. 8.2, update regarding previously introduced resolution 2026-040. A resolution authorizing the village administrator to accept a donation of land. That presentation, Alex.
Yep, so there's no formal action in terms of a motion unless you so choose, but I'm just bringing this back to you. In April, we had a request to accept a donation of 2 parcels of land along Ball Court. They're very small parcels of land from a private owner. At the direction of the board at that time, there is an adjacent property owner who I reached out to see if they would then subsequently be willing to accept that land if we no longer wanted to maintain it. I've tried and have been unable to get a hold of anybody with this company. They're a larger institution based out of the Boston area, and it's clearly it's not a priority for them. So I'm coming back to you all to see if you would like to still consider accepting these donations into the village ownership or pass. And thank you very much for the consideration.
We have no public appearances on this item. Discussion. Jim?
I personally feel that the properties are more of a liability than an asset. I question how they even came into being. If that Ball Court was something that the DOT bought, I don't know why they weren't purchased as an uneconomic remnant at that time, if that was the case, but somebody made that choice to keep it, and that's the outcome, I guess.
Anybody else? I'll say I don't think that we particularly need them.
Okay. Thank you.
I asked maybe of Judd or Greg, is there any benefit to the public that you see?
No, it's more maintenance. We're working with the owners of that vacant parcel there to mow. And they own the middle part, so they'll have to maintain that as well, which I've stated to them. So that's just, I don't, there's no benefit to us.
Anybody else wanna give their opinion, Brad?
I just recommend no action.
Recommendation for no action? Probably an okay idea.
Sounds good. I will carry this forward then.
Thank you, Alex. New business resolution 2026-088, a resolution amending, excuse me, resolution amending a development agreement with Amazon.com Services LLC. Staff presentation, Alex.
This was a development agreement that the board entered into with Amazon, I think in June. The developer, so Amazon, has requested an amendment to 2 provisions in section 2.5, and I'm not sure Callie, were you able to get the red line version out to show where the changes were? And it doesn't look like they get through in packets. Can you pull it up? So the proposed changes are to section 2.5. One more page. There you go. The general effect of these, so for the first, and I will note that the developer is on the call if there's any questions related to these. The first would be adding a restriction on how often the village could perform traffic studies or traffic count studies, which would essentially push those out to varying seasonal conditions. And then the second amendment, or the second generally substantive amendment, I'll say, would mandate that the village could perform traffic count studies, or would have to average 2 traffic count studies together to see disproportionate impact to the area. So rather than seeing a spike at one study, to see sort of what would be considered, could be considered persistent traffic impacts over time. So it's an averaging effect. Talking with our team internally, I would say we're not opposed to these changes, but certainly if there's any questions for the developer or for myself, I'm happy to entertain those.
Jim?
I'd say my comment, I am also not concerned. I don't see why it's a concern myself, because to me, the studies themselves take into seasonal fluctuations. So I don't understand why we want to have, let's say, the 3 months between counts, because the studies again account for those fluctuations, but I don't see why we wouldn't agree if that's a condition that they want. I don't see how it affects us or really them, so.
Sure.
And we do have a public appearance on this item. Cass Summerfeld. Come on up to the mic, please. And I think, give your name and municipality you live in for the record. And go ahead.
I am Cassandra Summerfeld in the Windsor municipality. I am against the Amazon development agreement, not only because I don't think that they are taking proper account into the resources that are there, but also I don't like the amount of air, water, noise, and light pollution that's going to be caused from this. I also think that the extreme vehicle use is going to be impacting the air quality and the traffic. I do have a bit of a concern, I guess, with taking an average, because I think it is important to see how different things do vary, because we do have a lot of things that do impact our traffic. So I think it's important to see those outliers. So if we could at least even maybe see both, that would be kind of beneficial, I feel like. And just a reminder, the peak hours, it was sending a van every 13 seconds. I'm very concerned that this type of development will ruin the peace and quiet that DeForest is known for, and a lot of residents come here for. I do find it concerning that Amazon took over the process from Ryan Companies. I'm not sure if it was because of the pushback or because of wetland issues, or because they just have a bigger legal team and more extensive resources. But I do think it should be concerning to engage in a contract with them, just because they will be able to make it so that they come out ahead in any situations that would arise. I think it's also important to keep in mind that, there could be issues with the indemnification policy, and that is not ironclad at all. Also in the agreement, it states that they only have to do an erosion control permit and a stormwater management permit. However, the DNR has informed me that additional permits are needed. In the P&Z meeting, it was stated that the village assumes that the stormwater management permit would take care of any wetland conflicts, but that is not the case. According to the DNR, several permits are needed from various DNR programs. A wetland application is needed along with the wetland ID and a full delineation because there was only a partial completed. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. 9.1. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2026-088? All right, I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded, motion by myself, second by Jim. Is there any discussion? Brad?
While I understand the premise of why they're asking for this, I just don't want to limit our ability to be able to conduct our work as we determine is necessary. So I'm against this provision.
Anyone else? Jim?
So if this provision doesn't pass, can you tell me how that changes as far as the 3 months, or is it what?
If the amendment didn't pass, then everything that's in black on your screen there would maintain, just the sections in red would not. So we would still be conducting trip counts no fewer than 90 days apart. And then the provision that says, or during the same calendar quarter of any calendar year would not apply. And then in the latter case there, it would be we could base it down to 1 traffic count instead of an average of at least 2 traffic counts.
Anyone else? I have a question. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I just wanna make some clarification here. So Village Board previously approved an agreement with Ryan Companies that was then reapproved with Amazon services, Amazon.com web services. They have not signed the agreement that was approved at the last meeting, subject to the amendment language here. And so if this resolution fails, the current agreement and resolution still stands. So I just want to make sure that folks here and in the audience understood that there is currently an approved development agreement with Amazon.com web services.
And I guess I should also point out that these aren't, so if there was a wholesale motion not to approve this, these aren't the only 2 changes that are redlined in here. There are some other clerical, I guess, changes that would also not be. So if this board felt that they couldn't support these changes, then I would just maybe clarify what additional changes you would or would not support too.
Can I ask what the reasoning behind the wanting the changes is?
So I will probably defer to Patrick, who's with the development team.
Patrick is up.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, these came from our Amazon's legal team. They're just some small changes that they requested that, they feel the language is more in line with, what they believe the spirit of the development agreement was, intended for. Like the 90 days versus the quarter, that's just, something that language that they prefer. And then the average of the 2, they just feel like if they were to get into a conversation, obviously they do have, 1, big delivery date in the year, and it comes, right after the Thanksgiving holiday. And, if they did want to get into conversations on if it's affecting traffic, they would prefer those conversations, are based on more of an average of what's going on and not the day after Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Legal, do you have anything to say? Mr. Reuter?
No, I don't see these changes as significant. I just want to make clear that the 90-day limitation is in the original agreement. So this would just add 90 days apart, but they have to be in two separate calendar quarters. So you have to wait, you might have to wait 91 days to do your second one rather than 90 days to get into the next calendar quarter. But essentially the agreement from the beginning was that they would be taken several months apart.
Thank you. That helped me. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
We do roll call.
Sure. Let's do a roll call vote on all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, no.
Just one moment here. Trustee Simpson? Trustee Williams? Trustee Bardoff?
Aye.
Trustee Brown? Trustee Cords?
No.
And President Little?
Aye.
We have 5 yeses and 1 no.
Motion carries 5-1. 9.2, resolution 2026-089. Resolution authorizing the village president and village clerk to execute an escrow agreement with Amazon.com Services LLC and Chicago Title Insurance Company. Staff presentation by Alex.
So as a condition to the development agreement, there was a cost sharing for the traffic studies, the amount of 50%, not to exceed $80,000. The escrow agreement in your packets basically is the document effectuating that and allowing us to have access to those funds through escrow.
Thank you. We have a public appearance on 9.2 by Cass Summerfeld.
Cass Summerfeld, Windsor. I am against the Amazon escrow agreement. I think that Amazon kills local businesses and mom and pop stores, and we are already rapidly losing them, and we need more of those in this town, not less. Amazon doesn't appear to bring business to nearby shops from different case studies I've seen from other locations. I know the job potential is enticing, but this isn't a safe place for people to work. Do you want to be responsible for bringing people to a facility that harms them? In 2024, Amazon employed 39% of US warehouse workers, yet accounted for 56% of serious injuries in the industry. Reportedly, workers are being injured at rates higher than other warehouse jobs because they prioritize speed, profits over health and well-being of employees. If that's how they treat their employees, how do you think they will treat the local community? Amazon is a giant company and they don't need to be coming into this area and any of the tax benefits that they would be receiving. From 2023 to 2025, Wisconsin, along with 16 other states, and the Federal Trade Commission did join in suing Amazon for unfair strategies in maintaining monopoly power as well as unsafe working conditions. There are current lawsuits that are going on, and that one was actually secured at a historic $2.5 billion settlement, which is only a drop in the bucket for them since their 2025 revenue was over $700 billion. Just something to be aware of, that this is someone that you would potentially be getting in bed with, and those financials are nothing to scoff at. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. All right. Is there a motion to approve resolution 2026-089?
Motion to approve.
I'll
Motion
second.
to approve by Brad, seconded by Melanie. Any discussion? You want a roll call again? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ordinance 2026, where am I? Number 9.3, ordinance 2026-012, An ordinance amending the village zoning code, chapter 15, affecting conditional use permit termination. Staff presentation by Alex.
Mark included a memo in the packets. This has undergone a public hearing and review by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Currently, our conditional use permit ordinance allows for CUPs to expire essentially after 1 year, the 1 year duration. Additionally, the term established is used to say when that conditional use permit goes into effect, which was not very clearly defined in current ordinance. So the goal here is to make modifications to ordinance to allow for a 2-year timeframe, sort of as the base, which especially today aligns more with construction timelines, and then getting up to operations. It also defines what established means, meaning basically opening operations, having continued operations. And then it allows for planning and zoning and the village board to make modifications to the duration of those conditional use permits should they so desire. I think that generally covers it. I'm happy to answer any questions on this. And I think, Callie, were you able to find the red line version of this one to show the changes that were actually made?
While Callie looks that up, I just wanted to mention that these changes do not affect CUPs that are already in place.
Correct.
We have no public appearances on this. No, I can. Jim, you have something?
Why is this gonna recommend approval of the ordinance 2026-012?
That works. We have a motion to approve 2026-012. Is there a second?
Second.
Can you bring up that I just want to double check a spelling error that I may or may not have caught. It's in the red line version, but I want to see if it carried forward.
Motion is seconded by Alicia.
Scroll up under the number 2. Stop. Okay, it looks like it was corrected in this version.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Number 9.4, Resolution 2026-090. A resolution authorizing the village president and clerk to execute a third amended and restated master development agreement between Bullish Investments LLC and the Village of DeForest. Staff presentation by Bill Chang.
Yeah, so this master development agreement is having to do with Conservancy Place master plan. A couple of meetings ago, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended and the village board approved a zoning code or amendment having to deal with the PDP of the Conservancy Place, primarily allowing for the increase of residential units in the overall development. This agreement speaks particularly to the parkland dedication and fees associated with those units, and cleans up the agreement from what has been completed thus far as part of the overall development, and then really sets forward what can be expected in the upcoming phases of the development. What remains are a number of commercial properties, and then the nose is the primarily residential development area. In the agreement also is the language for to provide a right of first refusal to the village. These are the 3 commercial properties just north of the athletic complex. If you remember, the senior care facility that was previously that is proposed was previously proposed on those 3 lots. The village board at the time requested that that property or that development be moved to the north side of Innovation Drive so that we could preserve those lots. And so that's captured also in this development agreement. It's referenced in the exhibit. Do note that there was a late update that came in as part of this. Al reviewed the legal description. That's in Exhibit A of this document of the agreement. And so the correct version of that is in there. The correct version of the right of first refusal is also in there. Happy to discuss in particular any of the changes potentially of it. I do want to note that because there was so much changes because of the restated and amended agreement, we did not include a red line because we felt that that would cause more confusion to folks. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Bill. We have no public appearances on this item. Is there a motion to approve 2026-090?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Brad, is there a second? I'll second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Oh, I'm sorry, discussion. Go ahead, Jim.
I can tell you that I'm not in favor of the approval or the agreement as written. And the main reason that I am, and that I guess I wouldn't mind some additional discussion, that there's an Exhibit B that shows a layout of a park. And to date, we haven't seen a layout of the subdivision in official context. So I feel that that is premature.
Yeah, so I'll give some historical context to this. So within the master development agreement, the previous two versions, there's an allocation of 4.6 acres of park space to the village for the remaining available lots, residential lots. And so developer has, in order to understand general concept of it, developer has provided the area for which the park would be. There is a concept floating around. It is anticipated that the subdivision plat will be submitted here before August 7th. And then it's to come to the Planning and Zoning Commission in September. The importance of this exhibit in this agreement is to secure, first and foremost, when we're talking about parkland dedication, in particular, the connection of the trail section through the park. And so as you can see the outlot, the trail outlots there, as pointed out, we wanted to make sure that whether this subdivision gets approved or not, that those trails remain in place. So that's the importance of this. And that's specified in the lingers, I believe, above, referencing Exhibit B.
I guess my concern with the exhibit is in the wording. It says it's substantially. And I don't exactly know the term substantially because I personally would prefer only one road crossing, and I can see your reasons why we want two road crossings for safety and stuff. But I think that's a discussion that needs to be had before we start locking ourselves into something that's substantially. And again, maybe I'm looking at Al, what really the term substantially is, because I don't want to get locked into a layout. I personally look at this park layout and I feel there's more valuable land as far as park uses rather than, to me, putting a park in the middle of the neighborhood land that's maybe hard to develop or less valuable. So I think there's further discussions that we should have before we lock into layout.
Yeah, it substantially means that essentially that's where it's going to be, and that's going to be the configuration of it. It doesn't purport to survey the exact boundaries or dimensions or that type of thing, but that's a concept of the general location, general shape of the park.
I'd say I'm in favor for having the trail connection and having the, 4.6 acres be relatively continuous. They also feel what's not shown here is a connection east-west that I feel is important to River Road. I don't know if that would be part of a parkland dedication. Do you know what I'm talking about, Judd? There's
That trail segment would be part of the road network when that goes in. There's not enough room to have its own trail, but it would be just, the trail would be part of, on one side of the road that would connect from that park to River Road.
See, and I thought that was the whole purpose of having the trail to what is like the tree stand and stuff, that it was going to continue to connect closer to the river.
The elevated wildlife platform that's there, that's further south. That's part of what Hidden Valley Condos is happening now. And if we did it, that would be a massive boardwalk that we would do through there to get to that. Get back over to the trail segment. That wouldn't be part of the Knolls though.
But it would be connecting through probably some of that south end of the woods.
They would, no, it would be, it would all be within the lands we already own. We had not contemplated connecting through anything that is part of the Knolls.
Can I piggyback off of your comments, Jim, and ask a legal question of the wizard as well? So I'm assuming that this would not preempt an alternative layout by planning and zoning if it came to them for a plat. If this layout substantially differed from what's in the exhibit, would this agreement have to subsequently get amended? If Plan Commission said something different?
I didn't hear that.
If the parties agree on something different, this language isn't going to restrict anybody.
I'm saying if Plan Commission has an alternative language or approves a different configuration of that parkland, it doesn't impact this agreement. This agreement wouldn't need to get subsequently amended.
Well, either subsequently amended or ignored. Yeah, I mean, we're not, if we get the park somewhere where planning and zoning asks that it be, we're not going to require them to give this land in addition to that. So that would be in lieu of this agreement.
Did we have a motion in a second? I thought so.
We do. I have Brad as making the motion and you as seconded.
Is there any further discussion? Jim?
I'll just state thank you for the conversation. I plan on voting for the amendment, but I am still not happy with the layout and Exhibit B. Thank you.
Okay. No further discussion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. 9.5, Resolution 2026-091. A resolution authorizing the village president and clerk to execute a development agreement between TDC DeForest, is that a 5? LLC and Village of DeForest. Bill?
Yeah, so let me start out with a map here. The location of the proposed development is along Cake Parkway. Just on the west side of Cake Parkway, it incurs or will be built, is proposed to be built across these two lots here. Developer is TDC DeForest 5 LLC. As you probably can guess, that is the Dickman Company, who has also developed and constructed 4 other facilities in the village thus far. The facility that is being proposed for construction is 182,000 square feet. Speculative industrial building. Here's the site plan. You can see that the front of the facility faces Cape Parkway. And then there are also renderings of the facility kind of in the packet. It's intended to be kind of a twin to their facility that recently completed construction on the east side of Cape Parkway. They have requested for tax increment financing for this facility, as with their strategy. They intend to reduce cost of construction with the tax increment financing and pass those savings on then in the arrangement of a long-term lease agreement with long-term tenants. Again, which they've shown that in DeForest they can be successful in finding tenants. Most recently with PepsiCo and Frito-Lay's and Merck Animal Health and Big Joe's forklifts and recently Porter Pipe and Supply. So this tax increment financing agreement proposes a financial incentive package in an initial business incentive of $850,000 in a pay-go bond. It also provides a $150,000 grant opportunity for future expansion for a future building. So TDC's, we would imagine TDC 6. It also waives assessments or possible assessments for public facilities, public improvements, most notably sanitary sewer that we constructed in 2023. There was an assessment from that sewer construction across the number of properties in the tax increment district on that side of the interstate that are receiving benefit from that sanitary line. We also have Cape Parkway construction, which was constructed in 2025. That there is not an assessment yet, but we had intended to bring that forth. There are future projects in Hickory Lane reconstruction, as we discussed earlier as part of the Amazon project, and then Green Acres Lane, which is adjacent to the site. As part of the strategy and the overall development of this business park, we've allocated a per square foot cost from each of those projects to each of these properties. And so that's how we've derived at a guarantee value of $16.2 million. As you read through the agreement, you can see that the agreement obligations to the developer is that they guarantee and file also a value covenant that the property will meet a fair market value of $16.2 million and generate at least $280,000 in tax revenue per year. When you divide that up over the life of the tax increment district, that increment covers the business incentive plus the waiving of the cost of those public improvements, and then TDC 6 will also then contribute tax increment to the district to offset those projects. And so that again is how we've built out this tax increment district and business park. And at this time, we would recommend approval of this resolution and agreement. I can take any questions.
Brad?
You know if they have somebody in mind for who would move into that space?
Alex has been working hard with WEDC and the developer I believe they're kind of at the final decision. We have not heard back yet. But they have filled at least 50% of the TDC 4 building point.
And they've received TIF for their previous 4.
That's correct.
They've been very good corporate partners, I guess I'll use that word. Don't seem to have had any difficulty whatsoever filling their buildings in the past. Very easy to work with. And let's see, we have no public appearances on this. Is there a motion to approve 2026-091?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Alicia. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Jim. Any further discussion? Ed?
I just feel like that they've been very successful in their other buildings, and I think this area is being built out quite a bit, that they're going to be successful in attracting new businesses to fill this without public financing.
Okay. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no?
No.
Motion carries 5-1. Communications number 10.1 is the check register. It was in your packet. Any other business that lawfully comes before the board? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. I'll second.
Motion by Melanie, seconded by Alicia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned at 8:21. Can you shoot those down to Ms. Kelly, please?
Yes. I'll expect.
Yeah, I got a little aggressive in that first part. Get aggressive.
That's what I mean.